Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture.
Well.
That was a
Who
soft
do we
start.
have here?
That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna let Lexus take it in, but she's
comes
playing
in loud
shy
and proud.
today, playing coy.
She is.
I might scream into people's ears, and it's
Like
just
a
it's a
cicada.
whole thing.
Yeah.
I was letting you try it out.
Thank you. Well, it feels great. We'll let the listeners decide. Here we are, and it feels like the last time we podcasted, it was spring, and now it is fully summer.
It happened quick.
Bath.
It happened quick,
Yes.
did it not?
Steamy.
I feel like I'm glowing even more than usual.
Glistening even. What is the movie Twilight? You would have this gold flecked glow about you in sunlight.
He's wearing his glow screen today.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool.
Well, I did have, actually, this is no joke. So I do happen to work, not to be totally gendered here, but I do happen to work with like 4 young women, and I've taken advantage of that by having them give me some tips on sun care products that I was unaware of.
Okay. Solid.
One of which is called Glow Screen from a company called Supergoop. Not, if they want to sponsor the pod, they can. I just don't know that there's a lot of overlap.
Super good.
Audience
Farmers, skincare, sunscreen. Personally, I feel like it's a big market, but
I bet you it has plant-based ingredients. We can work with this.
Well, yeah. So it's a sunscreen that gives you a little bit of an iridescent glow. I'm not wearing any now because I'm not really spending much time outside today. That might be a faux pas for the skincare people, but we're joined by a guest today, Trevor Terry. You want to say hi, Trevor?
Yeah, I'm Trevor Terry here with Supergoop. I am here to get you all on board. I want you glistening like Edward Cullen.
Yes. Twilight reference. I'm here for it.
Yeah,
Trevor coming in hard for Team Edward.
Yeah, no, I'm Trevor Terry. I'm here with Kentucky Horticulture Council. I'm the executive director as of November of 2024.
Cool. Well, we'll get into a little bit of how you arrived there. I do have a question. Yeah. I'm curious. So that we did, it is the steam bath summer Kentucky weather now. And do you all have a signature or a particular drink of summer that it's warm now? I've kind of transitioned. Some people go from hot coffee to iced coffee. Some people maybe are into the bubblies. That's been a huge thing over the last, decade or so.
Fizzy stuff.
But do you all have, and bonus points if it features a horticulture product of some sort, but it doesn't have to.
I've got an OG one. Mine's about as basic as you can get. And that's a half and half drink that is half lemonade and half tea. You can garnish it with whatever embellishments of liquid you want to add to that, but half lemonade, half tea. So kind of, what is that called? An Arnold Palmer?
Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
And it has a horticulture ingredient in it because we do have native tea plants in the U.S. So there you go, Brett.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to native tea plants.
Yeah.
What about you, Trevor?
Oh, okay. So I just had a kombucha the other day when we went to Locals, and I think it was berry kombucha from a local place. I've got it's probably in my recycling if you want me to dig it out, but I'm definitely into odd, specifically probiotic drinks.
Yes.
Love it.
Good
Love
deal.
that. We are having a little bit of a surprise birthday party for a family member later this weekend, and it is martini themed. So I don't know if I'm going to get into a martini phase because of that, but we're making a French martini with Chambord, and I know we grow raspberries in Kentucky, so I'm going to qualify that as a horticultural ingredient.
Ooh, nice tie-in. Martinis can go so many different ways. I mean, that's kind of an OG too. That's a good one.
Yeah. Great for breakfast too.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
There you go. In the big cup.
Stanley and go.
Brett, I know since you were the question asker, what sort of concoction did you have on your mind today?
Well, I would say, I mean, I kind of switch over I don't switch over. I still drink coffee, but I also mix in
Coffee's
some
all year round.
cold, chilled mate, yerba mate, which I've been drinking for a while. But also, like, as far as the summer drink, we're still a little early for it, is we'll take a watermelon and cube it up, freeze it, put it in a blender with lemon or lime juice, and it turns into like a very thin daiquiri kind of consistency. So unbelievably refreshing and delicious.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I thought you were going full college scale, like dump stuff in a bathtub. But you didn't. You didn't. You went classy.
Cut the top off.
Yeah.
When you said half and half, I imagine you saying half lemonade and half and half.
Yes, half and half. Well, I do love coffee.
Gotta let it curdle.
Round, so yes.
Let it curdle.
What about you, Alexis?
No, I drink everything all year round.
You don't have a transition
seasonality.
Yeah, I don't have a hard transition period. Like some people, it's like, time for the first.
I don't either. Yeah. How about
you guys? I drink margaritas all year round.
Yeah, all year round.
You have a margarita machine at your house, so I mean.
So you guys don't switch between like hot drinks and cold drinks at all? Like
no, I used to, I do, but I don't anymore. Like I've got like hot tea right now, and I could do an iced tea, but I don't know. I don't do that anymore for some reason. I'm just like all the time.
It sounds like another sponsorship opportunity. You know what I mean? You and Supergoop and
margaritas.
Margaritaville.
Tequila has an agricultural product in it, so
it does. It does. Very agricultural.
Jimmy Buffett estate to see what we need to do as far as getting set up. I'm just taking this completely derailed, but have you all ever come across the concept of the Ayurvedic doshas?
I don't think so.
Dosha. It's it's sort of like essential elements of the self and of the like. It's not like the zodiac, but it's kind of like the zodiac, but it's like it's more about your body and mind connection. And there's certain people who kind of have like more of a fire dosha. There's people who have more of a water dosha or whatever. And so there's things that you're supposed to eat or drink to help to kind of counterbalance yourself.
Oh,
and so for me, hot drinks is like the vibe, and it's pretty much year round. Like I have a tendency to kind of I don't have the fire in me.
I'm getting real Avatar vibes from this, or like water energy or earth energy.
That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah. So, what is your nation?
Arrow removed from red.
Are you an air person?
You an airbender?
Yeah, Lexington has really strong code violations against having air buffaloes in your backyard. So,
yeah,
I had to just change that.
They're very lightweight. They just kind
of. What about lemurs? Where are we on lemurs in Lexington?
Madagascar.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's allowed.
We're just wondering.
Yeah. So we don't have a strong, crystal clear plan because we know that Trevor's such a cool guy, and at least 2 out of the 3 of us are pretty cool. And I'll let the viewers decide. Let the listeners decide on that. But Trevor, you mentioned you're the director of the Horticulture Council now, but you were coming before this. You were coming from a different involvement in the horticultural world. Is that right?
Yeah. So I started my journey in horticulture kind of, I guess, the most Kentucky way possible. I met some guys at the Derby back in, I think it was 2014. And they were all Israeli, and they were talking about this concept of growing vegetables indoors. I had just graduated up in Boston, and I was coming back to Kentucky just to visit at the time. I was still trying to make it up there in the city. And I got fascinated by the concept. So post hangover the following days, I reached out to these guys because I got their contact. And I said, hey, that was incredibly interesting. Where can I learn more? I'm fascinated by this concept. I did not study horticulture. My degree is in the humanities, up there on the wall, whatever that means. And I'd like to learn more. And they said, I tell you what, why don't you come along with me to a meeting? So I was like, sure. Yeah. So jumped in the car, went over, I think it was to the estate of some famous writer in Kentucky that they were asking for investment for a high-tech greenhouse. And odd meeting, they brought a PowerPoint printed off in 9 pages, which, just presentation was on point. Yeah.
That's extension right there.
On a black and white printer too. So like all the colors, just
even
kind of
better.
Beautiful, right? And through the course of that presentation, I kind of found out that the way they had sold this to me, this idea of the future of horticulture, when they had a few drinks in them, was different from when it was in a business meeting, and it did not exactly come across in the same way. I think they kind of missed the point of that story, which is growing more food locally, which is doing it in a manner that's more sustainable in the long term for a lot of different reasons. And just genuinely pretty cool from a nerdy tech point of view. So I asked them if there was anything I could do to help them to tell that story a little bit better. Do they have a website, for instance? Do they could I work on this pitch deck with them? And they said, no, absolutely not. They were in a little bit of a mood afterward when that investment didn't come through. So they said, no, absolutely not. This is all proprietary information. And we're the ones in the world who are doing it. Turns out, I'm not great at taking no for an answer. So I went ahead and taught myself how to make a website and made them one, and based on all the information that I was able to find. And they didn't respond to me for like 2 weeks. They were pretty quiet, and I thought maybe it was just a shot in the dark, but they got back in touch and said, hey, we actually really like what you did. We'd like you to make some changes, though. We can't pay you anything, but do you want to join our team as like a shadow to the sales team? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So at the time I was also working for my family. We go way back in Breathitt County in Eastern Kentucky, got about 1,500 acres there. Some of that includes some coal mine land and a few gas and oil wells. So on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I was going down to Breathitt County to pump the wells and maintain those engines and do all the work involved in, pulling oil from the earth. And then on the off days, I was putting on a suit and I was going around Kentucky looking for somebody to invest in one of these projects. And after about a year of that really interesting dichotomy, we finally found an investor in Lincoln County in Stamford, Kentucky. And we finally had a piece of land, and that's when we got started. And I got, they started paying me. So I was the first employee. Of course, everything was history from there. 8 years later, that's a 11-acre project under roof. We went from a soybean field to the first high-tech vegetable facility in Kentucky, which is a great point of pride, growing grape and cherry tomatoes. I'll probably get more into all the wonderful people that made that possible, including my friend and mentor, Shabin. But after about 8 years there, it was time, I think, for me to figure out where I was going to go next, take that knowledge that I had gained over those 8 years. And I was lucky to get involved with the Kingdom of the Netherlands, of all places. I ended up as they needed a local liaison for some of the consortium work that they were trying to do here in ecosystem development. And that's how I became economic policy officer for the Netherlands Consulate General in Chicago, focused on controlled environment agriculture. The Ministerie van Buitenlandse Zaken is the official title, Foreign Affairs.
Well, now I feel bad that I didn't salute when we came on.
Yeah. It's actually a funny story. I actually share a birthday with the King of the Netherlands. They still have a king and a queen and everything like that. And his birthday is also April 27th. So there's actually a national holiday called King's Day. And it is essentially that entire country gets together for a giant party. And I like to think that maybe, if some things were to happen, I'm not saying any kind of threat or anything, but maybe I'd be like, next in line for the.
I mean, we already have the date figured out. Like, might as well.
There's already a
birthday celebrations. The calendar would be the same.
You don't have to change any of that other stuff.
Run with that. Yeah, lots of money saved. Yeah.
Yeah, en ik spreek een beetje de Nederlands, maar ik kan wel beter lezen en begrijpen dan praten. So, I'm in.
Well, so you could at least do the press tours, and just be like, kind of give that regal indifference that you don't want to, like, give short answers. That works perfect.
That's my vibe. You get it.
Yeah. So you came from that world, and then you stepped into this Kentucky Horticulture Council role. And so I will say, I think your story about the pitch with and without cocktails is a very strong very strongly recommends a kind of Mad Men culture of alcohol in the workplace. Maybe you can understand why Don Draper was. Yeah, it was functioning. Maybe we could leave some other parts around, gender relations in the past, but the booze cocktail at lunch vibe, that I think that might smooth some things.
Yeah, spending money on horses. I mean, that is definitely my other reason for moving back to Kentucky, besides, family and this awesome opportunity to work with Kentucky Fresh Harvest. And, the fact that I met my wife here, I just really like horses and wasting my money on losing bets. So that's the other part I really like.
You'll fit right in.
Racetrack, folks.
You fit right in with that.
Actually, it was kind of 10 years I've been back, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Because you kind of, we've talked before about the several different places that you spent time and lived. But as far as the Horticulture Council, I would love for you to pretend I'm 2 mint juleps deep, and maybe 3, and pitch me on the Horticulture Council. Tell me why I should care, what I should be into. I'm curious to hear that.
Yeah. So Horticulture Council, we are a 501c5 nonprofit association of associations in horticulture in Kentucky. So it was a little bit confusing for me when I first heard about it, but our members are actual member associations that cover the whole gamut, from apples to zinnias, from carrots to daikon, whatever it is. We anything that what did I say the other day? If it grows, we if it's under the sun, everything under the sun. That's what it was.
Ooh, nice.
A very snappy moment, not one of these like need a little bit more coffee kind of moments. But
those are the best.
Kentucky Horticulture Council has existed since 1991. The initial kind of impetus for it was there were a few groups, the Vegetable Growers Association, the Kentucky State Horticultural Society, a few others that all realized that, we're supporting fruit growers, or we're supporting veggie growers, or we're talking to ornamental growers. And they realized that they needed kind of a unified voice. And so the mission of this organization is to elevate and advance horticulture in Kentucky. Do that in a lot of ways. And the Horticulture Council is a lot of things to a lot of people. A lot of that, I think, is due in large part to the really hard work of my predecessor, Cindy Finiseth, who's now at UK with you guys. You already know her. She was in the role for 6.5 years, I think, and took things from an organization that had very little leadership and very, a direction and kind of a historical trajectory of what they were doing, but in really professionalizing it and bringing in a lot of additional grant funds and expanding our overall scope. So I'm very fortunate to be in the role during a really interesting time, I think, for horticulture, but also to support growers through some of that stuff with my other experience. So I will never, I don't think I will ever live up to, Cindy told me she wears a 6.5 shoe, and because everybody's telling me big shoes to fill, like I heard that probably 1,000 times when I started. And they are very big shoes to fill. I wear not a 6.5, but they feel a lot bigger than that.
I know you guys cover a tremendous amount of ground. You said, I'm familiar with you guys and some of the things that you guys do as far as direct work with like audits, on vegetable operations, all the way up to some of the work that you guys do with like making sure that elected officials understand, the state of things in Kentucky. But you guys cover a tremendous amount of ground. With that being said, what does an average day, if there is such a thing for you, look like at the Hort Council? What do you do with your time? And I'm afraid that's a question beyond the scope of this conversation, probably. But kind of, what does the day look like for you?
It is very rarely the same. I think I was telling Haley, my wife, about it the other day, and just the hardest part about it is that no 2 days are alike. Yesterday, for instance, Dakota on my team and I went up to conduct a water test for a grower up in northern Kentucky. We drove up in my Camry, which is another whole topic of conversation. Being the horticulture guy with a Camry is not a great look, and also not super functional. But went out on the farm, got 3 samples from 3 different locations out there, and brought those back to the KSU lab in Frankfurt to get those analyzed for that grower. I got back to the office for about an hour, in which I tried to wrap up a full proposal for the specialty crop block grant coming up next week. And then I headed back out to South Farm for the blueberry field day put on by Brent Arnoldusen and Dakota there for blueberries in Kentucky, which I don't know if you know this, the most complex thing in the world. Blueberries are finicky as they get. This is from Daniel Becker. It is a 8-page diatribe on the overview of blueberry production in raised mulch beds.
And that's probably just dealing with pH, not actually anything else.
Yes.
Exactly. It may be 8 pages on just pH. That.
Yeah. So being a tomato guy
drop
coming
a blackberry,
from that side of it. Exactly. Like that is some complex stuff. But yeah, that was one day. Left the house at 7:30, got home at 7:30. So it's what I think you guys get it in extension. No 2 days are exactly alike. A lot of the days, unfortunately, I am doing what I'm doing today, which is talking to people that I just, really don't have a lot of patience for. I'm kidding.
I was like, wait, what?
He said people that he has a lot of love for. Okay.
Yeah. That's
unfortunately, and I was like, wait.
Well, I thought that you would probably wear the field hat as well as the administrative hat. Was that some administrative stuff you were dealing with today, probably?
Yeah, that was a lot of budgeting. So there's a lot of spreadsheets. And I think I may have been a little bit too eager about the spreadsheets in my job interview because
you just excited Brett Wolf a lot.
Yeah.
He said spreadsheet. Yeah. Look at his mouth. He's like, his face is glowing right now.
Well, that's how I fell in love with horticulture. I mean, what excited me the most about it, I mean, yes, all of the biology that goes into it is incredible. The idea that we're directing a biological entity, looking for some production out of it, that's like the oldest thing that humans do as a civilization. It's wicked cool. Where I found a lot of love for it was that our customers at the greenhouse really didn't have a good frame of reference for, we're not working on like these 12-week or 6-month long contracts with these big buyers. We are working on like generally a week to week, 2 weeks ahead kind of basis. So even, as a farm that was just getting off the ground and starting to get that customer base, we didn't have a lot of those really secure contracts for that time frame. But I needed to know what our yield was going to be based on all the information available. Now, Shabin, Dr. Saha at Kentucky Fresh Harvest, formerly of UK, he has it wonderfully in his head. But those days where he's not available or he's got to pick up the kids or whatever else, I need answers pretty quick. So the way that I kind of got around that was developed a model for tomato yield prediction in the greenhouse that was accurate within about 10%. So on the weeks where we had, 14,000 pounds coming out of the greenhouse of grape tomatoes, we could definitely say within about 1,400 pounds, this was kind of what we were going to have. So it allowed us to develop better customer relationships, credibility with those buyers to say, hey, here's what I think we're going to have. And we're pretty close to that. Right. But it also allowed us to plan for payroll, for inputs, for energy costs, the lighting and the natural gas in the greenhouse, all those sorts of things. It allowed us to plan on a lot better time frame. That's kind of the spreadsheet that I fell in love with. Now I work with a lot more,
budget numbers and stuff.
Budgets with 13 different federal grants.
Yeah. Oh, with grants. Wow. That's a whole different prediction model. Yeah.
That's a whole different.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. With new levels of uncertainty, new variables to consider. So as you mentioned that, obviously the spreadsheet is a point of joy or falling in love with horticulture. So is there anything particular about this? We have a whole episode about the reasons that we are interested in the joys that we get from horticulture.
Yeah.
I know you do a little bit of gardening, a little bit of growing around your, do you have any thoughts about like your joy of interacting with these plants? This very old human connection to our photosynthetic friends?
Yeah, besides the nerdy part, which does excite me a lot, timing irrigation, around specific plant needs and fertilizer and trying to predict my own yield at home. That's super fun. But who made me fall in love with it really? Like my dad and his 7 brothers and sisters were all grew up on the farm in Breathitt County. My dad's dad purchased it for I think $5,500. This was about 750 acres. And that's where they all lived and worked to survive, basically, growing tobacco, raising hogs. They did some sorghum. They did all sorts of stuff. Dad told me that occasionally they did eat squirrel, which is very on brand for my dad, if you knew him. But yeah, I think that generation wanted us to get as far away from horticulture and agriculture as possible, because it was a hard existence in that generation. And it is crazy to me that a generation later, we're talking about AI and predictive models for yield. And at the same time, I grew up with like my Uncle Paul, who passed, giving the first tomato from the garden to the youngest kid in the family, and having that first like white bread and mayonnaise and salted tomato sandwich of the year, and having that honor as being the youngest person. Right. Yeah. I think the other person who really made me fall in love with it, besides, my family on that side, is my wife. So Haley, when I met her, I was working for the greenhouse, but I had an apartment in Midway. I didn't have any like garden space or anything. But when we met, she had this little, 10 by 20 garden, and she was growing some things. And I was like, hey, what if you pruned your tomatoes like this? Or what if you trellised them with this Florida weave thing that I've seen? And she's just like, I don't know, that's weird. Why would I do that? And we tried it. And we started to just like fall in love with each other through that aspect of our relationship, kind of like caring for the same thing, arguing about it, which was fun too. And that's grown like into, I think we're both consumers and producers of food in a really like passionate way. So if it's our tomatoes, I want them to be perfect. She owns a bakery in Lexington. It's Gigi's Cupcakes on Richmond Road. And
I know that place.
You can go and tell her you know me, and she'll either give you one or throw one at you, depending on the day.
Fair enough.
And so the opportunity to kind of use some of those ingredients that we get from local farms, like blackberries or apples or strawberries or things like that, in deliver those to people in a really unique way is really interesting to me too. I'm a nerd for all of it. I don't have a lot of like. There's not a lot about growing tomatoes specifically that I'm not just fascinated by. I have a couple of little starts that I'm trying to start some new guys right here. I refuse. Haley hates it because anytime there's a volunteer in the garden, she wants to take it out and like make it more efficient space and not have all the, possibility of disease and things like that. And I save all of them and I hide them around the yard. So they're just
what this guy's going to be. Yeah. What's it going to be? It's like a mystery wrapped in an enigma. It's like, what's this tomato going to be? Yeah. Potential.
Exactly.
Volunteer management.
You mentioned Breathitt County. Yeah. Sorry, Brett. I was going to just say, I bet you I've been to some of those places in Breathitt County. You mentioned like your past and oil drilling. My father used to drill a lot of wells in that area, Clay Hole and Frozen Creek and Outro. And
we were right next to Frozen. Yep.
Oh, exactly. Really?
Yep.
But I spent a lot of time there just riding the sputter rigs, just the old gas-fired rigs that ran off natural gas all day long, just watching that hammer drill go up and down. But what caught my attention about that is, and the Horticulture Council is right in the middle of this, is that the change in horticulture over, going from like subsistence, and Brett and I and Alexis have had this conversation before, going from like subsistence type farming that was pretty prevalent in that area. And now we're talking about AI, and what is Kentucky, the second biggest state in kind of controlled environment agriculture, horticulture. I mean, it's kind of incredible. I mean, when you mentioned that, there's this picture immediately popped in my head of those old hillsides, in Jackson and surrounding areas, and places like I grew up in Johnson County outside of Paintsville. But now we're talking about all of this space under glass, and that's kind of what the Horticulture Council is right in the middle of, isn't it? Really, with like infrastructure development and all the work that you guys do. It's so cool to me, and the breadth and the width that you guys cover is just pretty incredible. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. Like walking into one of those greenhouses, a 60-acre structure. First of all, it's just
it's mind blowing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. But then you walk in and you're in this environment that is developed, with every intention of providing exactly what that plant needs. And that's kind of the formulaic piece of it. I think that's the through line to the spreadsheets and the AI is like, if I adjust the temperature or I'm controlling the lighting, or I'm putting on the shade cloths or opening up the vents, like none of that is an accident. It's all intentional. And that's what's fascinating to me about the greenhouse stuff. With Kentucky Fresh and eventually, of course, App Harvest as well. A few of the other big players like 80 Acres, like we have so much space that's under protection. I did a little bit of when I was still with the Dutch, I did like a kind of an analysis of the USDA census numbers. Because I was in a lot of conversations with people, and globally, I think people saw what happened with App Harvest as sort of a blip, right? They were like, okay, here's this company, this tech company that raised a ton of money and they built all these greenhouses, and here they go, they fail, right? A lot of people said, I told you so. A lot of people said that of course that was going to happen. I think it had a lot to do with the management of the business and a lot less to do with the actual viability of the production system, because we know from around the world that those things work. In that kind of study of where the country is at as far as a greenhouse or protected horticulture goes, the increase from 2017 to 2022 in Kentucky, it went from like 1.4 million square feet to 6.6 million square feet, which is already huge. It's like a 342% increase over that time frame in protected vegetables under glass or other protection. But what I knew from working with those folks and kind of paying attention to that greenhouse industry through my Dutch job was that the App Harvest facilities alone were 7.1 million square feet. So clearly something was not adding up. I went into the county level data to take a look and kind of verify what was going on. It turned out that none of those facilities were listed. So when I'm in these conversations talking about, foreign policy as it relates to agriculture at the embassy in the Netherlands, like, and they're saying that maybe that's just a blip or that's just the App Harvest facilities or that's, we can write that off. The fact of the matter is that none of that was listed. All of that growth came from small and medium-sized operators, right?
Yeah.
And so when we look at that growth alone, 6.6 million square feet, and then we add in the 7.1 million square feet from App Harvest, we get to about 13.8 million square feet for Kentucky. That's protected vegetables under glass or other protection. I think it's table number 37 in the USDA census. So I'm a nerd for that stuff. I think that's impressive. But where does that put us in the nation? Prior to that addition or that correction, I guess, we'd be in fifth place. I think it was, behind Ohio or something like that. But with that additional acreage actually counted correctly, it puts us in second place behind California in the entire country, which is just a crazy stat, right? Now, California has 38 million square feet.
Yeah, it's a big leap between number 2 and number 1. Yeah.
Yeah. But all that said, 13.8 for a state like Kentucky to go from 1.4 to 13.8, 932% increase is crazy. So I'm very much a proponent of that because number one, I see it as an opportunity to bring more people, more food locally. I see it as an opportunity to get the next generation of folks more interested in horticulture, whether that's in ornamental or in vegetable production. I also see it as another thing for Kentucky to hang its hat on as like, hey, sows, cows, and plows have been the story about Kentucky agriculture forever. But here, horticulture is actually creating opportunity as well. And it's the same thing with the cut flowers, right? I might not have these as memorized, but I believe that in the 2022 census, we have 220 growers listed growing on 233 acres. The market value in 2017, I think, was $50,000, like in cash receipts, listed in that census. It's now up to 2.2 million in that time frame, which is insane. So
a little bit of a growth area.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
20 growers growing on a little less than an acre or even less than an acre. And we know there's some that are not counted as well. If the USDA census is not perfect, but there's another thing with tremendous growth in Kentucky that is on the smaller scale, but has an opportunity to explode, I think, over the next time frame that they'll make that report. So maybe I'm too much of a nerd for those numbers, but I think it helps to reshape the story around Kentucky horticulture away from like, well, tobacco left and what's next. And you guys deal with this a lot, into like, here's opportunity. Here's this like natural resource we have in both the land and in our people. And they're doing some amazing things with very little land and very little,
Yeah. And Kentucky doesn't always tell its story as well as it should. And so organizations like Hort Council, Kentucky Proud, other places like that help, I think, to tell those stories of all the good things that are happening so that there can be, investments when it makes sense from other places, to just build that industry in like a sustainable way. Because nobody's like asking for it to be completely everything under glass. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be like the next vertical farm, central hydroponic, make up AI run greenhouse. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not going to be just one thing. We've talked about diversification for how many years, and it was an interesting point you just made, Trevor, when you said we're always wondering what the big thing is. Well, the scary thing is, what if the big thing is already edged into the picture, and the scary thing is we may not see it till it's passed us by with another state or the market's been captured someplace else. But I think that's the trick of framing, and that's why groups like the Horticulture Council is so important to me. You need to have people looking at things like that to make sure that the picture and the frame that the picture is in is truly representative of what's going on out there in Kentucky. And there's a lot going on in Kentucky, and it's pretty exciting as far as horticulture goes and agriculture.
There's a lot to be excited about, and there's a lot to be nervous about. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I took this job knowing that there would be a lot of opportunity and also a lot of challenge. And I think the growers are seeing that too. Brett, Alexis, and I have had some really good discussions with growers about some of the economic uncertainties that are facing us right now, from tariffs and from just general inflation affecting what inputs they can get at what prices. And you hear the full gamut of folks that are working with 3 truckloads, for instance, of a substrate versus 1 pallet, right? And all of those folks are experiencing those same issues, just on different scales. And so that's one of the challenges, I think, right now. The other is, of course, federal funding right now is a huge uncertainty. And as a grant funded organization with 13 of those federal grants right now, I can tell you that I did not sleep well from January 28th when the OMB memo was put out until like basically today. And I'm sure it's going to be tough to sleep tonight. And that's affecting a lot of different organizations, right? That's affecting universities. That's affecting our member associations. That's affecting individual farmers who are taking advantage of federal programs. Like we had the LFPA and the LFSS, the Local Food for Schools. When that went away, that was a big hit for a lot of horticultural producers, right? I am encouraged right now that we've got a lot of advocates at both KOAP and at KDA, like Commissioner Shell. Even our friends at Kentucky Farm Bureau have all been very much listening to those issues right now. And I think that as things kind of play out on the federal level, we've got a lot of great advocates here who are trying to take those things into account. Now, is everything perfect? Am I still going to sleep well about, this, that, or the other funding opportunity. It's going to be tough, but I am still optimistic that some of that grower support is going to continue through the challenging time when we kind of need it a lot, right? Have you guys heard about how strawberries are doing right now, for instance?
As far as
the root system or the disease issue?
The
Neopestalotiopsis.
Yeah. I think it's going to change the industry some. I believe it's making some larger growers. I know we have some in my county, Bourbon County. I mean, it's making them reassess the supply chain and how they get plants, or do they grow their own plants. So I think that's generating, some churn in that industry. It's going to make some changes definitely on how things come from, the supply chain there. Just to overall, I think it's making some changes right now. Currently, we're, considerations are being made already for next year, and changes are happening. So
exactly, and I know for cut flower growers, it's a similar thing. Like sourcing those bulbs from overseas. A lot of that strawberry plant material comes from Canada.
Yes,
it's a lot of the substrates, fertilizers, plastic materials, whether that's for a greenhouse or just pots. A lot of that stuff comes from a global supply chain. So that additional uncertainty, I'm not saying I know a lot of growers that make a perfect budget for what they're going to spend the next year. But if you bump 10% to 30% to 50% on top of those line items, I can tell you from my own experience, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
Yeah. And do you guys work with sorry, Brett, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was going to take us in a different direction. So you go ahead.
No, I was just going to add one thing to that. So, and you guys are out here. It sounds like the Hort Council helps communicate this stuff to different stakeholder groups. Is that the case? Or tell them the story.
So that's part of the mission. I think that it's going to become an even bigger part of our mission, or our charge. That is our original charge, right? To act as that unified voice for horticulture. So we've got currently 12 member associations that are part of the Kentucky Horticulture Council. Like I mentioned, vegetable growers, Hort Society, all these different groups that represent their own kind of segment of horticulture. And right now, I think more than ever, they do have a unified voice, at least in my experience. The guys who are our turf and landscape guys are talking about the same issues in workforce development, in rising costs for their operations, in uncertainty around the future that our vegetable growers are. And our vegetable growers, from the open field guys to the greenhouse guys to the really small scale, just getting into like a direct to consumer market, everybody's kind of talking about the same concerns right now. So although it is a challenging time, I do see a lot of unity in how people are approaching the times. And that gives me a lot of hope, because
we're all in it together kind of thing.
Exactly.
I think sometimes organizationally, we come to get known for one or two things, and there's a lot more going on. So, for instance, with our group, people know about the farmers market and auction price reports, and maybe aren't as familiar with some of the other things. And so, I was curious. We've talked a little bit now about the controlled environment stuff. We've talked about the unified voices for the growers. I think one thing that I would love for people to know and understand a little bit more is that there's actually, in addition to just being a member and being able to come together and have conversations, you all also do provide services that growers can and should in fact get involved or approach you all about different support angles. And that's something, that's something that keeps me awake at night, is trying to think about how we can tell people more about how the Horticulture Council folks can, just get in front of more growers or not realize, oh, this is a thing that the Hort Council does. So what are some of those things?
Yeah. So, we're a statewide organization with, as of April now, 5 people on staff. Used to be just 4, and it's crazy, the amount of ground that is covered by my wonderful staff. So I'll kind of frame that discussion. I think I've got a big slide where I can go through all the details about what the different programs are, but I want to frame that discussion in our people, around our people and like their levels of expertise. So we have, of course, when Cindy left, that left a great hole that I will, of course, never completely fill the vacuum of. But between Dakota, Bethany, Danny, and Allie, I've just got some great people with some great experience. Our oldest team member, who is just one of my, like, kind of the light that I call when I'm in one of my darkest modes, is Bethany. Bethany Cox, she has done, I think, for 5.5 years at Hort Council. She has been like the go-to. She does everything from farm visits to working with farmers markets to upscale their businesses and to better communicate with growers, to working directly with farm share operations lately to get them more used to digital tools and kind of future-proofing those organizations and that particular business model. She is, she might kill me for saying this, but she is kind of the breath of fresh air when everybody else is feeling a little bit down. She will bring it in, and she won't agree with me about that, but you know how it goes. Of course, Danny on our team, Danny Zwischenberger, she is a kind of all-around expert. She spent a lot of time in horticulture professionally prior to joining Kentucky Horticulture Council, but she's still curious about everything. She's managing 2 particular projects. One is on that CEA, the protected ag ecosystem development in Eastern Kentucky, and another is a completely different shot at workforce development. So she's managing a project from the Department of Labor where it's called Kentucky Greenworks. We're trying to upskill and get certifications and registered apprenticeship programs outlined for the nursery and landscape, arboriculture, and protected ag industries in Kentucky. So she's one of those people that can take a really, really complex thing and boil it down and communicate it in a way that just makes sense for people. And I'm very much proud of her and all of her hard work, even before I came on. Dakota is like, I think you all know Dakota, right? I'm trying to think of the best way to describe him. He is the hardest working person that I know. I thought that was Cindy, but it turns out it was Dakota. He's our grower outreach coordinator, and he does everything under the sun. So he's our resident water expert. He's our resident risk management expert. He is our resident produce safety expert. And he works with a lot of other partners, but he is the guy who's like, I was talking to him just yesterday about, shifting some of his time from one project to another. And his main concern was not like, about him personally and how he was going to be spending his time, but really he was like, okay, but right now I'm the guy out there, boots on the ground, traveling to growers. And if I am stuck behind a desk doing this project, then who's going to be out there every day talking to these people? And genuinely, I respect that. I had one idea because I'm looking at spreadsheets and I'm trying to make decisions based on that, but he's thinking about the human connection. And that's why he's the best grower outreach coordinator, bar none, that I've ever, had the pleasure of working with. And then Allie is our newest team member. Allie is, she comes from Legacy Dairy. You've probably had their milk before. It's, by the way, the chocolate milk is fantastic. So free plug for Allie and Legacy Dairy. But she joined our team in April as our program and operations manager. So she is kind of like she's my boss, essentially. She keeps me on track when I'm thinking about, we could do this project or we should be focusing on this. She's like, hey, but remember, we need to focus on this, and this. So she is she's my rock. And since she doesn't come from a horticulture background, it's really exciting because as she's discovering stuff, I'm also discovering stuff. And so is the rest of the team. So you know how it is when you talk to people who are less familiar with everything from gardening to commercial horticulture, and that light goes off for them and they start to see how these businesses work. Like, she's already in love with it. I will say that her first kind of Horticulture Council era plant that she bought was a cactus. And that kind of reflects.
They all do.
I don't get it, man. Dakota loves cactuses too. They're all over the place, but between all those people and hopefully with a little bit of help from me and our partner organizations like you guys at CCD and UK Extension, and we I think deliver on a lot of value. And then, like I said earlier, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. So some of that core programming, and I'll shut up when you want me to about all this stuff.
We love this. So
beyond all those grant funded projects, we have our core foundational funding comes from the Ag Development Board. And that's the key stuff of what we do. Through that funding, we're able to offer a gap cost share program where we will pay for up to 75% of a gap good agricultural practices audit third party for growers. we have expended that entire amount already this year, which I'm very excited about. And because that always helps me to go back and say, hey, look at the engagement with
people
this
use
program.
this.
Yeah. And I'm really excited about that, because what that means is I think currently we have 74, 75 GAP certified operations in Kentucky. And, if we can get that to 100 over the next couple of years, I'll be thrilled, right? That just helps lower that barrier to entry for growers, and to help existing growers who are currently, adopting those practices and getting that certification, usually to go to a specific customer. We're kind of helping them, grease the wheels to get to that next point. And it's a real hook for us too, because when we are going in to talk about produce safety, or we're going in to talk about marketing, or we're going in to talk about technical assistance for production systems, it really helps to have something like, hey, and you know what, we could probably do this. Another one of those is our on-farm water management grant program. That's another cost share where we can, for growers who submit projects that are approved, we can cover up to 50% of a project cost up to $20,000. So that has some really specific stuff. So don't make me quote every single best management practice from NRCS that we cover, because it's a list, right? But that is another program where we can say to a grower, hey, you're using this water source, and it might be, your agricultural water might be actually introducing risk into the supply chain for specific pathogens. And if you were to just do drip tape, right? Or if you were to just use it, like drill a well or have a cistern or do some raining catchment, right? Like those sorts of things that come naturally from trying to improve your production system also improve your food safety. It's one of those things where we can kind of turn that on its head and say, hey, we're elevating these growers by helping them get to that next stage.
It's a gateway indicator to me when people ask about GAP audits and water systems, things like that, especially GAP audits. It's sort of a gateway sort of waterfall moment where that producer is usually leveling up as far as production or clientele. And it's a pretty exciting time when I hear that, because usually that's the motivator, right? And you guys provide that important service to help remove that friction for them to move up, level up production or marketing, whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And that's all thanks to Ag Development Board and that funding that has been, just like I said, foundational to everything else we do. The other big part of that service, we do the NAP surveys, and we do the research grant program, which I'm particularly excited about all the time as a nerd for horticulture. So we have a small pool of funds every year that we get to allocate for specific projects at Kentucky universities to advance horticultural research in the state. So it's like a baby version of SCBG. It's not a baby amount of money, but it is like a step in that direction for a lot of people. And it kind of fills a gap that those larger grant programs do not. So in some cases, we're funding research fellows, and in other cases, we're funding specific horticultural research projects for specialists at UK or KSU, or at we've had Moorhead, Murray State, Berea, U-Pike, all over the place for different researchers doing those smaller projects. And that one particularly excites me, like I said, because I'm a nerd, but I think there's the most opportunity to fill a gap right now with that. And then like the other huge portion of that spreadsheet that I'm always working on is our support for extension across the state. So we have either fully or partially funded 11 extension associates at the University of Kentucky. Everything from the protected ag folks to the fruits and everything like that. And I think people don't really have an idea about what an extension associate is, because I was going to ask you guys, like, kind of how do you view that, and where does that fit into the puzzle for you guys in your own experience? I'm curious.
It provides critical support in very specialized area. I mean, as a field agent, it's so important to me because I've worked with different folks in those positions over time. And the thing about all the horticulture that we're talking about today is it tends to be kind of advanced. It's advanced systems when you talk about, or can be advanced, everything from drip to protected ag, but they provide that kind of expertise on the field facing side. Now, I know there's other components to it, but just from a selfish point of view, that field help, really supplements what's there, or there may be a gap in what's available, at the university and other places. But that's why it's been kind of very helpful to me and local growers in the past with my experiences as a field-facing person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Yeah, I would say like seeing it from, being in the county to now being on campus, it is a little bit dependent on like kind of what they're specializing in. But, I think that they are a way to expand that specialty, right? Because we only have one specialist and they are pulled in a lot of directions between teaching and extension and research. And I think that the EAs, the extension associates, are able to really drive home the extension mission. And so they're able to take, that area they're specializing in, even if they're not, an expert, right? They have direct communication with the specialist who is, and they can get with them more quickly, and they can really be, I think, the face of that program area and stretch that out, and also deliver back. It's a two-way street. They help deliver back. Hey, I was over at this farm with this agent. The agent was saying they're seeing a lot of problem with plum curculio. Can you let the specialist know, or can we do some more research, or can we do an on-farm whatever? And so just kind of helping with that and a little bit more technical assistance that way. So I think they just really expand the program that they're in, and are a good face for the university, and for the agent too, so the agent knows that they've got help.
It's kind of just another strand in the rope for me.
Yeah.
It just is part of the fabric, and we need all the support we can get on a lot of these advanced production techniques and operations. So it's just a good supplement in a lot of cases. But I know they, just as Alexa said, it depends. But yeah, sure.
Brett's been an EA though, so
yeah.
What's that?
Didn't you start out as an EA?
I did. I did. Yes. Yeah. So in case anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, these are campus-based staff positions that support extension at a statewide level, usually, sometimes a regional level. I honestly think that a blend of faculty and staff work is going to be more and more the future of extension. Of course, our county-based programming is, to me, the
heart,
crown jewel of the whole system, but and we have a very uniquely strong system in that regard in the state of Kentucky. And I think honestly the collaborative funding and support that the Hort Council has given to UK for the last 20 years, I think we might look back on it and say, wow, that was actually extremely forward thinking or indicative of where things were going to go, as far as collaborative understandings of value and identifying priorities and funding. I think more and more as the core funds get cut, or as the federal and other funding opportunities for extension and for universities start to shift and become maybe more unpredictable, I think we have a lot that we owe to the Hort Council and to the Ag Development Board and the way that they have thought through that stuff, and the people who have figured out what that looks like across time. And now you're part of that legacy, and that which is really, really cool.
And
I do think we've led the way in that regard.
I'd agree. I don't think that folks in Kentucky have a great understanding of like how extension programs work elsewhere, but associates aren't present everywhere, right?
No.
Sometimes it is just a specialist in a state that's covering the entire state, which is crazy. And I'm really glad.
And they don't have county agents. So like it's pretty much just the specialist.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the land grant mission goes, like having, many hands make light work. And I think we're always improving that too. In my time, I'm hoping that we can really center on what value we deliver to growers and getting more of those that feedback in a direct way. Like, how can we better serve those growers, and what are the issues that they're facing, and how do they view the assistance that they're getting, just to try to focus on that continuous improvement model. That was the plug for Toyota and my father-in-law, just to that in there.
It's good to know that Supergoop practices lean production systems.
Yeah,
continuous improvement.
Yeah. We're trying. I guess the other piece about Hort Council, just to round that discussion out, because we are so many things to so many people, or is just to bring it back to those, whether it's a funded position at one of our land grant universities, or it's folks directly on our staff, or it's our volunteer board members that put in a lot of extra time to make sure that when I'm going crazy, I don't go completely crazy. It's all those people that make it work. And it really does come down. I think it's important. One thing I just want to make sure we cover is, like, because I've been thinking about it a lot, is sort of paying it forward, and maybe like mentorship of people. I know Ray, Shabin pretty well from back in the day, right?
Yeah. Go back a ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I started there at KFH, I had very little direction about what I was supposed to be doing. I had zero knowledge of horticulture, and I was working with this group from Israel, which was, a lot of time differences and a lot of language barriers and things like that. But we were out, like, kind of meeting with different agents in different counties, trying to figure out who was growing what where, and went down to Whitley County, and somebody from the judge executive's office, I think, had invited Shabin down from UK. And he was, if you know Shabin, he's got a particular vibe of skepticism, and he does not suffer bullshit very often.
Yeah.
Sorry, BS very often. So he came in, and we started to talk about this project. He said, "Well, have you thought about this? I think this location's a lot better than that one." And he just had a lot of understanding and knowledge from his prior experience at University of Florida, at Purdue, and at UK. And he came on as the second employee, and I will hold that over his head forever. I think that I was for the second. First. Yeah. But that's what you need at the beginning of one of those large, builds for a greenhouse or any kind of farm. You need a grower, somebody who knows that stuff. And he's still there, which is crazy to me too. I guess 10 years ago when we met, it was just kind of this idea on a soybean field. And here he is running that whole project. And I'm immensely proud and grateful for the time that I got to spend, 8 years going from knowing nothing about that stuff to, where we are today is cool. And when Shabin's talking about, pest management practices and teaching me cultural practices around that, as well as the science behind it, and giving me an opportunity to ask all those stupid questions in an environment where I didn't have to feel embarrassed about not knowing the answer. Right. He always put it like, I can give you the paddles, but you got to row yourself. Right. So he's equipping those people down there that are still working at KFH, and he equipped me with the tools necessary to make my own decisions. And I'm just immensely grateful for that. And I'm curious, like, who your guys kind of mentor was, or if they had any good sayings. My favorite is Shabin always says, "There's no money in growing vegetables. There's only money in selling vegetables." That one I've got tattooed in a number of places.
Yeah, I've heard that from more than a few, particularly the protected environment growers. It's something about them that they some of them lean heavily on the business side rather than the a plant, I want to hug it side. They love the plants because it's business units of economy. Yeah.
I feel like I've had many mentors and over my life, but one of mine, she said, who's now an extension associate, Sherry Dutton, and she said, plants don't read the book, Alexis, you just have to figure it out. And that has never been more true, and I say it all the time because they do not read the books, and they do what they want, so.
It all depends, Alexis. It's all very situational, just like sociology. It all depends.
Issues.
Nature versus nurture. Okay, it works for plants as well. It does.
Well, one of the people that really shaped my perspective on this was a former coworker, Neil Wilson. He repeated a phrase that somebody else had told, and I think it's about having perspective on a lot of things in life. But he said, and some people might push back against this, but there are no horticultural emergencies. That we have to have some perspective on. There are things that are really important, and there's losing money, and there's all kinds of stuff like that. But if you have health scares or you have other things that happen in your life, sometimes you kind of have like, okay, yeah, let's just rewind back to we're growing plants. This is really like, this is supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to be it's not supposed to just be this primary source of stress or cortisol or fight or flight or anything else. So I don't know if that's inspiring or not, but I've really enjoyed this. What's that?
I was going to say Bella Bloom's version of that is it's only flowers. And she was a NICU nurse. So like legitimately, she goes, it's only flowers. Everything's dead, but you know what? It's only flowers.
And that's not to say that any of this isn't absolutely essential and important to our future as a state, to our future as individuals, to the businesses and organizations in the state. I think that I was really impressed with the way that Cindy took the organization by the horns, and I've been really impressed with the way that you have too, Trevor. And I'm excited for this next chapter of what the Kentucky Horticulture Council is going to do and is already doing. And you all are supporting our CCD 25th anniversary, which we really, really appreciate. We're looking forward to getting together and having some summer-ish cocktails and drinks somehow focused and integrating horticulture products. That was maybe me fishing for answers earlier about what we should do.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, so full circle. Again, thank you so much for coming on today. And
I'll do one more plug.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. So currently, we were talking about Extension Associates. Currently, there are 2 positions open at the University of Kentucky and KSU. This will be the first KHC funded position at KSU. It's on a focus on hydroponics and aquaponics, kind of really serving to enhance their Dare Kentucky project, the largest single grant award in KSU history, which is really exciting. And of course, KHC is happy to support that, but we're also really happy to kind of broaden that impact with more positions funded at different universities. We also have another position. I think Cindy and Qinglu just posted that last week for a protected ag associate in the horticulture department at UK. And that's super exciting too. We talked a lot about that industry today and how that's growing a lot. We need all the support we can get. So if you're out there and you got an hour or so into a discussion about plants and administrative and spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff, you're going to love it. I'm kidding. Please just
skip dedicated.
Listen to this part. Apply
we can
online.
Put some stuff in the show notes about that too, Trevor.
Yeah.
Some clickable links.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll link
in the description. Like and subscribe.
There you go. Hit the bell icon.
Link in the description. I only get a little bit of a sponsor fee. I'm kidding. I don't get anything.
Yeah. Use promo code Trevor.
What's the Kentucky Horticulture's Instagram handle if they want to follow for Bethany's fabulous videos?
It's a really good question. I think it is KY Hort Council, and
we will tag you in ours. So if you are following Hort Culture podcast on Instagram, we will tag them, and then you can follow and get delicious recipes and seasonal advice. And,
it's actually just at KY Horticulture. At KY Horticulture.
Thank you, Brett. Would you like a job?
It's a green Kentucky. You can't have them.
Can't have them. Yeah.
I will fight you.
Well, while you're over there on Instagram and you're following KY Horticulture and seeing the great content they put out, feel free to follow us. We are at Hort Culture Podcast on Instagram. We also have a brand new email address to hopefully not get emails lost. We've decided to go out into the world of Gmail. And so we have, it's the same as our email address. It's hortculturepodcast at gmail.com. You can email us there if you have ideas about what we should cover on the show, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you're having trouble finding a link or anything else.
You want to be a guest?
If you want to be a guest, go ahead and throw that out there. We really hope that as we grow this podcast, you'll grow with us, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you all.